It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story.
Keep walking!
Arrested on the highway after an apparent second attempted assassination of Donald Trump. But the Secret Service tonight confirms no shot was fired. The former president back safely at his home, blames his political opponents, saying highly inflammatory words from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris inspired the plan. In the town where the suspected gunman used to live, we hear about his past and politics and what effect, if any, this latest incident could have on the presidential race. Also tonight, his reputation in tatters, condemned by his former employers at the BBC. But Huw Edwards is spared jail over his child pornography conviction. Stepping back from the picket line, ending their strike as junior doctors accept the government's pay deal, but at an estimated cost of more than £500 million. We see inside the lab where they are preparing for the potential arrival of Mpox in the UK. Sunk before its final mission even began, the evidence of failures in the maintenance of the Titan heard at the inquiry into the disaster. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages. That's in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Hello, good evening. The man suspected of the second attempted assassination of Donald Trump appeared in court today. He was charged with gun crimes, but charges are unlikely to end there. The Secret Service tonight confirmed that no gun was fired by the suspected assailant at Donald Trump's golf course. For his part, the former president appeared to try to use the apparent assassination attempt to put pressure on his opponents, saying that inflammatory language from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden is causing him to be shot at. In a moment, we'll look in detail how close the suspect got to the former president, and we'll hear from the town in North Carolina where he had family links. First, though, from Florida, our US correspondent Mark Stone has this report.
Take 2 steps to your right!
The moment Ryan Ruth was arrested.
Take 2 steps to your right! Driver, walk straight back!
Coaxed from his car on a Florida highway on Sunday afternoon.
Keep walking!
He is the 58-year-old at the center of this latest apparent assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
If he's a lone gunman, President Trump is that much safer because we have him. But if he's part of a conspiracy, then this whole thing really takes on a very ominous tone.
40 miles to the south in Palm Beach, the golf course where President Trump was playing on Sunday afternoon. A section of the public perimeter road remains closed as this part of the investigation continues.
The agent, who was visually sweeping the area of the 6th green, saw the subject armed with what he perceived to be a rifle and immediately discharged his firearm. The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent.
These 2 backpacks, a GoPro and the rifle were recovered from the bushes, and investigators have traced Ruth's phone. They believe he was in the area for 12 hours before the gun was spotted by the Secret Service. A few miles away at the federal courthouse, roads closed for Ruth's first appearance, out of sight for initial charges to be made.
Well, a brief appearance in court. He was shackled, a blue prison suit. He appeared nonchalant, unbothered by the charges against him. He's been remanded in custody and will be back in court in 2 weeks' time.
2 charges for now, gun offences, but more will follow. The former president has been here at his Mar-a-Lago resort and surrounded by heavy security through the day and posting online. The rhetoric lies as exemplified by the false statements made by Comrade Kamala Harris during the rigged and highly partisan ABC debate, and all the ridiculous lawsuits specifically designed to inflict damage on Joe's, then Kamala's political opponent, me, has taken politics in our country to a whole new level of hatred, abuse and distrust. Because of this communist left rhetoric, the bullets are flying, and it will only get worse, he wrote. He is, it seems, fighting what he sees as dangerous rhetoric with yet more of it. President Biden, speaking in Philadelphia, struck a different tone.
In America, we resolve our differences peacefully at the ballot box, not at the end of a gun. America suffered too many times the tragedy of an assassin's bullet. It solves nothing and just tears the country apart.
The election is 50 days away, and by the week, the language, the messaging, the events seem to be ever more alarming. Mark Stone, Sky News in Palm Beach, Florida.
Well, yesterday's dramatic events played out in a small part of southern Florida. Donald Trump had travelled from his Mar-a-Lago home to his golf course. That's around 4 miles away. The course itself has 27 holes, and Trump was playing on the 5th hole towards the eastern edge of the course. Secret Service agents were stationed ahead of Trump, and on the 6th hole, they spotted a rifle muzzle pointing through the hedge. They shot at the gunman and he fled. Officers searching the area found a gun and 2 backpacks. Well, experts have told Sky News the gun appears to be an SKS-style rifle, which normally has a range of around 400 metres, enough to cover the whole of the area that Trump was about to walk into. It was around 40 miles north of that on the I-95 highway that the police arrested the suspected shooter after a witness took a photo of the getaway car. So what more do we know then about Ryan Ruth? Our US correspondent James Matthews reports.
We need 100,000 people here fighting. This square should be filled with thousands of people from every country.
This was Ryan Ruth in Kyiv in 2022. Then the would-be assassin was a would-be Ukrainian fighter.
If you're not here and you're sitting on your couch watching TV, then you're not doing the right thing.
Age and lack of experience denied his effort to sign up for the Ukrainian war effort. 2 years later, allegedly, he would sign up for murder at home. Ukrainian officials have distanced themselves from the 58-year-old. President Zelensky has sent his best wishes to Donald Trump. Latterly, Ruth had been living in Hawaii, where he built small housing units.
Every interaction we had with him was very, very welcoming and kind. If he did have anything to do with it, it's very, very shocking to us, certainly.
A bumper sticker on Ruth's car reflects Democratic support. An extensive and erratic social media footprint indicates he once backed Donald Trump before turning against him. In 2020, he posted, "While you were my choice in 2016, I and the world hoped that President Trump would be different and better than the candidate. But we all were greatly disappointed, and it seems you're getting worse and devolving. Are you retarded? I will be glad when you're gone." This is the house in Greensboro, North Carolina, where Ruth once lived. Law enforcement officers have been here as they investigate the man and his motivation. They'd come across him before. Ryan Ruth has a criminal past. Here in Greensboro in 2002, he was convicted for the possession of what was termed a weapon of mass destruction, reportedly an automatic machine gun. Other brushes with the law include, in 2010, the possession of stolen goods. A question for North Carolina and beyond is a political one. For Donald Trump, the previous assassination attempt boosted his donations and his standing in the polls. There's been a second attempt to assassinate him. Does that change anything?
No, not at all. I think he's for the people. I think he's going to fix this country. I think we absolutely need him to save this country.
I don't think it's changed nothing. I just think people are just used to it. They just used to him. You know what I'm saying? Those that support him just used to him.
I don't think much is going to change at all. I don't think it's really a factor. A couple people trying to hurt him, and I hope that they don't. I hope they don't succeed. But I think people have already made up their mind on it.
There was already much that was difficult about America's 2024 election. 2 assassination attempts in 2 months signify a darker turn, and disturbing questions over where this leads. James Matthews, Sky News, in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Well, let's talk to Mark Stone now in West Palm Beach, Florida. The former president says he feels safe. We heard tonight, Mark. But what more did we learn about this second apparent assassination attempt?
Yes, he says he feels safe. He is back here at Mar-a-Lago, his resort, 10 minutes or so from where that extraordinary moment unfolded yesterday afternoon. So many questions still unanswered. The news conference wrapped up an hour ago. I've been looking back at what was said. I think the most interesting parts are in the second half of it. We heard from the FBI, we heard from the Secret Service. The Secret Service are clearly under an enormous amount of pressure, unprecedented pressure. One phrase stuck out to me where the acting director of the Secret Service said that his team is operating right now in a hyper-dynamic threat environment, like something that I don't think they've ever had to deal with before, and they're dealing with it with an ever-shrinking fund, and they need more money. He was quite political on that. He made the point that they need more money from Congress to do more and more work, protecting the president, the vice president, the staff of the White House, yes, but so many more beyond that, including, of course, former President Trump as he continues in a campaign, and the election, of course, just 50 days away. And then on the investigation itself, I think the FBI gave some fascinating details about what they are now looking into. Of course, that recording device, the GoPro that was found at the scene, the details from that are now being looked at Quantico, the FBI's offices in Virginia. They're looking at all the mobile phone records, his existing phone, other communications devices he may have had, the weapon, of course, as well. We've learnt, too, that they have got civilian witnesses who were at the scene. They are being spoken to, family members as well, other contacts that he may have had, either in Honolulu, in Hawaii, or in North Carolina as well. A huge amount to do, as they said, a hyper-dynamic threat environment ongoing.
Mark, live for us there in Florida. Thank you. Our other top story tonight, the former broadcaster Huw Edwards walked out of court today, not into a prison van, but to a waiting car. He'd been given a 6-month sentence for possessing child abuse images, but it was suspended for 2 years. Not escalating the case to a higher court was unusual, one lawyer told us, and was made after the former BBC star had presented mitigating evidence and had told the court through his barrister that he was profoundly sorry and felt the utmost regret. Our crime correspondent Martin Brunt reports.
He arrived at court with an overnight bag. There was a chance the best-known and now disgraced TV news presenter would be leaving here in a prison van. He seemed to stare defiantly at the cameras and reporters. Some of them were his colleagues not so long ago. A police mugshot told a different story. The look of a worried man confronted with his serious child sex crimes. The court was told Edwards paid hundreds of pounds to a young paedophile who sent him indecent images of children, some the most serious Category A. Prosecutor Ian Hope said a Category A video was sent, which is notable because the age of one of the children involved was significantly younger than in the rest of the images sent. It showed several acts between 2 children aged around 7 to 9 and 11 to 13, respectively.
Good evening. Boris Johnson has unveiled his so-called...
Edwards was already suspended by the BBC, but on full pay, by the time police found 41 indecent images on his phone's WhatsApp. He told a probation officer his crimes arose from a fixation on online sex chat, his poor mental health, use of alcohol, and a failing personal relationship.
Almost always, if not always, these cases are committed to the Crown Court for sentence, and a sexual harm prevention order is imposed to restrict the way people use internet-enabled devices. This hasn't happened in this case. It must be different for some other reason, hopefully other than the fact that he is the celebrity that he is.
The court heard that Edwards hadn't created the images, but had opened and viewed them. His barrister, Philip Evans, KC, said he recognises the repugnant nature and the hurt done to those who appear in the images, and for his part in that, he apologises sincerely and makes clear he has the utmost regret. The judge told Huw Edwards his reputation was in tatters, and that, he said, like the loss of his career and the financial damage he'd suffered, was a natural consequence of his behaviour, which he'd brought on himself. The BBC said it was appalled at his crimes. Edwards had betrayed the corporation and the trust of his audience. He left court a free man. He must have been relieved it wasn't a prison van waiting for him, but he can't expect doors to be held open for him much longer. Martin Brunt, Sky News, Westminster Magistrates Court.
It may have cost the government an estimated £600 million, according to one think tank. But the junior doctors' strike is over tonight after they voted to accept the pay deal on offer. It ends a 2-year dispute which involved a series of walkouts which hamstrung the NHS. Well, our political correspondent, Serena Barker-Singh, is outside the Royal Sussex County Hospital in Brighton. And Serena, this offer to junior doctors was one of the first acts of the new government.
Yes, remember the Health Secretary went into negotiations with them almost immediately after they got into government. It was one of their first priorities. Perhaps nervousness as well. They wanted the maximum amount of time to get this done fairly quickly. You know, what's been agreed is 22% pay deal over 2 years, and that comprises of all sorts of things. So back pay, uplift. It's quite complicated, but it adds up to a substantial amount, which the junior doctors have now agreed to. This is what the Health Secretary said earlier today.
It was because we were counting the costs of failure, whether £1.7 billion wasted on the costs of the strikes or the £1.5 million delayed, cancelled operations, appointments, procedures, that we had to settle this dispute. That's why the Chancellor has chosen to end the strikes, because it's better for patients, better for doctors, also, crucially, better for taxpayers.
So interestingly, he's talking about reforms there. Earlier last week, Lord Darzi laid into the NHS in a report and the government said following that report they wanted more reforms to the NHS before the cash injection. Obviously, the government is now throwing money at the unions, but the timing now is also crucial. This is on the eve of the Labour conference, which starts at the weekend. It's staved off any strikes that could potentially be brewing. But if you read the fine print from the BMA statement today, they are saying that they had initially wanted more, and there is a potential for renegotiations with the government, potentially in a few years. So it's not a complete win for the government, but I think they will be breathing a big sigh of relief that this deal has finally been done.
Serena, thank you. The inquiry into the deaths of mental health patients in Essex over a more than 2-decade period has already been told that the number who died may well be in excess of 2,000. And today, the families of some of those people were able to share their memories and their pain. One of them was Sam Cook, who lost her sister, and our communities correspondent, Becky Johnson, spoke to her at her home.
I want to see her beautiful face as a memory. But I don't. I see that last image.
It was Sam who discovered her sister after she'd taken her own life. Paula Peretti was 46. She'd been in hospital weeks earlier, but was sent home.
She started having a panic attack. She couldn't breathe. They dropped her bags at my feet and said, "You've got to take her home, we need the bed." I said, "Can you not see she's having a panic attack?" And they said, "Sorry, but we need the bed."
Do you think if she'd had the care that she was begging for, she'd still be alive today?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Paula is one of thousands of mental health patients in Essex whose deaths are being investigated by a public inquiry. Today, Sam was among the families here to share memories and detail how their loved ones were failed. Liam Brennan died, aged 29.
We were desperate for help, which is why we turned to the NHS for the answers we could not find for ourselves. No parents like us should have to bury their child.
This was Abby Smith, who had autism. Her mother shared these videos from just days before she took her own life.
It seems totally unfair that you had to die in order to be safe and at peace when you should have been supported to achieve this when you were alive.
Then Sam described the impact of her loss.
Our lives changed forever on the day she died, 6th of January 2022. I was so tired that I ended up sleeping longer, and I missed a phone call and missed a text from Paula. The text from Paula said, thank you for being part of my life.
These are the first families to speak, but there'll be many, many more coming here to share their grief, to fight for better care for society's most vulnerable. Becky Johnson, Sky News, Chelmsford in Essex.
And if you've been affected by this story, you can contact the Samaritans by calling 116 123 or emailing joe@samaritans.org. Now, Sir Keir Starmer may have ended the plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda, but he showed great interest in another way of offshoring the asylum process, according to Italy's Prime Minister today. Giorgia Meloni was referring to her government's deal with Albania to have applicants processed there. Sir Keir said what he was doing was showing pragmatism. Our political correspondent, Darren McCaffrey, reports now from Rome.
And that's the overall number at the top.
Here to learn lessons from the Italians.
Is this the drone picture? So you've got that coming in the whole time?
The Prime Minister at a migration command centre in Rome, alongside his own newly appointed UK border commander, trying to understand how Italy has achieved a 60% drop in migrant boat crossings in the Mediterranean over the last year. And even amidst the pomp of a red carpet welcome, it's important to remember that this is an issue that has brought two very different prime ministers, despite the warm optics, from opposite ends of the political spectrum together.
Grazie, Keir, a te la parola.
And it was a relationship Keir Starmer felt the need to defend.
I'm very interested in the work that the Prime Minister here in Italy has been doing, and that's what this is about. It's about the politics of pragmatism. The British are very good at pragmatism. It's what we're known for over the years, which is seeing a problem and actually rolling up our sleeves and thinking through which is the most effective way to deal with it.
Italy's success in reducing numbers has in part been due to bilateral deals with Libya and Tunisia. But they're also going further, signing a controversial pact with Albania to build asylum centres and process migrant claims before they reach Italy. And while it has similarities with the Rwanda scheme, it does significantly differ, with asylum seekers allowed to move to Italy if their claim is successful. Some at home, even inside Labour, have voiced their concerns about Keir Starmer learning lessons from Meloni's right-wing government. But the Prime Minister's argument is that if you want to stop illegal migration, you need European cooperation, like he's trying to achieve here in Rome today. Elsewhere, that cooperation is in short supply, with Germany today imposing extra border restrictions with its EU neighbours to stem migrant numbers. And for Keir Starmer, this has to be about more than just international cooperation. With the worst year on record for deaths in the English Channel, it's one mission that has become increasingly urgent. Darren McCaffrey, Sky News, Rome.
The historic Belfast company that built the Titanic, Harland and Wolff, is to collapse into administration. The firm said up to 60 redundancies were expected, but not at any of its 4 shipyards, which are expected to continue trading. The Lib Dem leader Ed Davey has told Sky News he is sceptical about a change in the law on assisted dying. That may leave him out of step with many of his party's members and a majority of the general public, but it's based in part on his personal experience, as he told our deputy political editor, Sam Coates.
Spear level, bang in the middle.
In the middle, right where Ed Davey likes to be. Fighting the Tories on one side, Labour on the other. But the Liberal Democrats are now a serious force in Parliament, with more influence than ever before. Lib Dem votes could be the key to legalising assisted dying in the coming weeks or months. Some in his party want to lead that campaign. Does their leader?
It's such a critical issue, and it should be a free vote. I have to say, personally, I have some concerns. I nursed my mother as a teenager when she was dying of bone cancer, and I saw someone who had a very painful disease, and by nursing and giving palliative care, she was able to enjoy life and be with us, which is what she wanted to be. But here's my other concern, which I want to listen to the debate about, is the pressure it could put on elderly people. Not pressure coming necessarily from the relatives, but from them inside, internally,
Will there ever be an answer to that question? Are you always not going to be opposed to this change?
It will take a lot to shift me, but I think we need to debate this. But I do come to it as a sceptic for the reasons I've described.
What is it about your personal experience that leads you to this position?
Well, from my personal experience, I believe that palliative care can be very, very effective. And I think if we invest in our hospices, we invest in palliative care, I think a large part of the concerns that people have will go away.
You're telling MPs in Parliament, take your time?
I think so. I absolutely think so. I don't think we should rush this.
Because there are people who want to rush it. There are people who want to have a vote in the next few weeks. You'd say, don't do that.
No, I think we have to have a more considered debate.
Hello, everyone. Hi. See, so who's in charge?
On this issue, he says it's not him. He doesn't want to get stuck on it. But how is he going to make the Lib Dems memorable without just resorting to stunts? Sam Coates, Sky News, Brighton.
Not a single case of the new strain of the Mpox virus is known to have yet reached the UK, but the country's health security agency is not taking any chances. It invited Sky News into its high-security Porton Down facility today, where we saw the preparations being made if an outbreak were to occur. The agency has produced 3 potential scenarios, one of which presumes transmission in the community, though it says that is the least likely. Our science and technology editor, Tom Clark, reports now from Porton Down.
The staff in this lab are preparing machines they hope they'll never have to use. The UK Health Security Agency's facility in Porton Down is gearing up to test thousands of cases of Mpox virus every day. They're routinely testing for a previous strain of Mpox that's been circulating since 2022. But a dangerous new outbreak in Central Africa of an Mpox strain called Clade 1b means they need to be prepared.
So upstairs, as we speak, they'll be doing assays for Mpox. We're getting 20 to 30 samples a day, and elsewhere in the country. But then, if we did see an outbreak here, when the demand for testing went up, we'd switch to these larger platforms which have the ability to do thousands of samples a day, both here and elsewhere. So it's that ability to quickly escalate testing to a suitable scale is the key.
The government has just purchased an additional 150,000 doses of Mpox vaccine in preparation for the expected arrival of Clade 1b. In addition, health authorities are preparing for 3 possible scenarios if Mpox makes its way here. The first scenario assumes the new strain is less infectious, leading to small, isolated clusters of cases. In scenario B, virus spreads like it did in the 2022 outbreak, affecting high-contact groups like gay and bisexual men. However, targeted vaccination and testing prevents wider spread. The third most serious scenario envisions a much more infectious virus spreading through touch or possibly the air. Outbreaks in schools, care homes, hospitals and prisons could result. Widespread vaccination prioritising the most vulnerable would be required. At the moment, authorities believe the first 2 scenarios are most likely, but they can't yet rule out the third. Which one it is depends on learning more about the virus. When a sample of the new outbreak strain of Mpox comes here to Porton Down, it'll go straight into this level 3 containment lab because it's still a live virus. But one of the first jobs of this facility would be to grow more of it, so that other scientists working here can have the samples they need to answer urgent questions like how much more dangerous this virus is and how well our existing vaccines are going to protect against it. In the absence of a UK case, scientists here are waiting for a sample of the virus this week from international collaborators. However, they might not have to wait long for a UK case of the new Mpox virus to arrive all by itself. Tom Clark, Sky News, Porton Down, Wiltshire.
It is more than a year since the Titan submersible imploded deep in the Atlantic Ocean. The US Coast Guard is now holding a public hearing to establish exactly what was to blame. And its first day has heard criticism of the boss of the company which ran the sub, one of the 5 who died on board. Ashna Hernag has more.
The Titan had promised a trip of a lifetime down to the Titanic shipwreck. But in June last year, it was crushed in an instant by the pressures of the deep ocean.
Raise your right hands.
Now a US Coast Guard 2-week public hearing is unpicking its ill-fated dive. Speaking on its opening day, the former finance director of the company that made the sub didn't hold back when asked how it was maintained.
There were some young engineers, and by young I mean late teens, early 20s, without any experience that we were aware of, wrenching on the sub and without supervision.
This animation shown during the hearing illustrates the submersible's journey and its communication with its support vessel, the Polar Prince. The green line on the left tracks the sub's descent as messages ping back and forth. One of the last reads "All good here." Just over 30 minutes later, they lost communication. Its remnants were found on the seabed. All 5 people on board died instantly. From left to right, British man Hamish Harding, fellow explorer Paul-Henri Nargeolet, father and son Shahzada and Suleiman Dawood, and Ocean Gate's maverick founder Stockton Rush. He, a difficult character to dissuade, according to another former colleague.
Stockton would fight for what he wanted, even if it changed from day to day, right? Like he wouldn't give an inch much at all.
All despite knowing the vessel had a difficult past. Elements bonded together with adhesive, no third-party checks and multiple missions ridden with mistakes, a sense of cutting corners.
I just want to confirm that non-destructive testing was discussed for the carbon fibre, however, none was conducted.
That's right.
This case could rewrite the rules of undersea exploration and decide if, here, there's a criminal case to answer. Ashton Harinag, Sky News.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview tonight, joined by the political editors of The Sun and The Guardian, Harry Cole and Pip Kura. And the sentencing of Huw Edwards features on many front pages. This is the Daily Mail's take, for example, disgraced, reviled, but not a day in jail. Their headline for tomorrow's paper. Back in just a moment.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
Well, this is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. First, though, a reminder of our top stories tonight. A man has appeared in court in connection with a second possible assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Ryan Ruth was stopped by police after Secret Service agents spotted a man with a gun in the bushes as the former president played golf. The former BBC News presenter Huw Edwards has been given a 6-month sentence, suspended for 2 years after pleading guilty to 3 counts of making indecent images of children. The judge called his crimes extremely serious offences, but concluded Edwards does not present a risk or danger to children. And junior doctors have voted to accept a government pay deal worth more than 22% and stop their strike action. They've been in dispute for 2 years and have staged a series of crippling hospital walkouts. Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview. A first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the political editors of The Sun and The Guardian, Harry Cole and Pippa Crerar. Welcome back to both of you. Haven't seen you for a while. So to the front pages then, let's check out those to start with. The Eye leading with the suspended prison term given to former BBC newsreader Huw Edwards for accessing images of child abuse. The Metro is disdainful of that sentence. Their headline, Lucky Huw. Similarly, the Daily Mail says disgraced, reviled, but not a day in jail. While the Sun sums the story up with one word, sickening. The Express quotes from the judge's sentencing remarks describing Edwards' reputation as being in tatters. In other news, The Telegraph leads with Sir Keir Starmer defending his acceptance of favours from the Labour peer Lord Ali. The Guardian has news of 2 firearms charges brought against a man who it's understood was moments away from trying to kill Donald Trump yesterday. The Times hears that the government wants to make working from home a right, partly because it boosts productivity. Well, the Financial Times reports that the EU is poised to offer €40 billion worth of loans to Ukraine after a similar attempt by the G7 nations to provide aid using frozen Russian assets failed. And according to The Star, Donald Trump's running mate J.D. Vance has said their campaign is willing to make up stories, such as the ones about Haitian immigrants eating pets, in order to get their point across. Well, don't forget, scan the QR code that you'll see on screen during the programme to check out the front pages of those papers. While you listen to our guests, let's head straight to Harry and Pippa. Lovely to see you both anyway.
Evening.
But, you know, a day dominated by a story that was, to be fair, driven by The Sun, your front page sickening. Does this give justification, do you think, for The Sun and its initial reporting of this?
Absolutely. The modus operandi used in this pretty horrifying court revelations today are very, very similar to the exact original story which we ran just over a year ago of a very powerful person in a unique position of trust using social media and his vast wealth to contact and manipulate people into providing him with some of the most depraved possible things you could do. The money exchanging hands, the buying people of trainers, the way he sort of approached people on Instagram and various things. It was all there. And this is nothing new, though. You can read it across it. My brilliant colleague Scarlett Howes is leading the charge of this, our brilliant news desk. These tip-offs were coming in 2018. 2018.
Were you sitting on this story since 2018?
It's a public interest thing. You know, the level we needed to get to as a news organisation, and we took some hell of a lot of flack for that initial story, was breached by that original story. But that was not the first time Huw Edwards came across our radar using this exact tactic of being very underhand, using an elite position of trust at the BBC, to essentially be a predator.
So why, if you had first had a tip-off about this, you were sitting on this story since 2018, did your editor decide to withhold his name at the beginning, which led to all sorts of BBC presenters having to defend themselves.
At the beginning of the story, it was about the failures of the BBC to take seriously the concerns of a working-class, sun-reading parent family who had tried everything they could to contact the BBC, to try to raise the alarm about this powerful person, and they were ignored. So the initial story was about the failings of the BBC to take seriously, very serious, and look how serious they are, allegations about one of their star performers. Obviously, for legal reasons, for privacy reasons, you know, the press is essentially, in the modern age, post-ECHR, post-Leveson, post-various things, fairly shackled in what they can do. The libel laws are on the side of the powerful in this country. There is no doubt about that, and people would agree with. There are stories that we know are true, but have been unable to get out there. I presumed, and I think a lot of us presumed, that Huw Edwards would just quit when this story was, you know, if he had any decency, any shred of decency, he would have just resigned rather than put his colleagues through that. That wasn't on us, that was on Huw Edwards. So I think there's a lot of people who, we can get into this later, but there's a lot of people who rush to defend their friend. I won't go through the names and list of people, they know who they are, and they should hang their heads in shame, frankly, tonight on the back of this sentencing. But it's a very delicate process, but I think we utterly did the right thing. I think Victoria Newton, our editor, and our brilliant team of reporters, and I can't claim any credit for it, have been hugely vindicated tonight, and a bad person, frankly, should be in jail, but isn't.
Well, much of the coverage does dwell on that. Huw Edwards in the Eye avoids jail over images of child abuse. The Daily Mail as well, if we have that, making the point that he's not spending one day in jail. We learned that he has been in hospital for the entirety of the time since his initial appearance in court. The fact that this was held back in a magistrate's court is surprising. This would normally go to a Crown Court. But the fact that he's not in jail would be typical for a first offence like this, is what experts have said.
Yes, so, I mean, there are various factors under the sentencing guidelines which the judges have to follow that they would have taken into account. And normally an offence like this would be somewhere between, the starting point would be about a year in jail, and they would move to either 6 months to 3 years, a 3-year period. And then what the judge has done in this case, and they said this in court today, it was taken into account various factors, such as the fact that Huw Edwards' mental health had improved since the time when these offences were carried out. So there was a recognition, they said, that of the severity of his offences. And that, therefore, he wasn't a risk to the public in the way that he might have been previously. That this was, as you say, Anna, his first offence, and that he pled guilty early. And the way the system works is that if somebody pleads guilty early, they're potentially saving the public purse a lot of money. The court system, which otherwise might have to go to a jury trial, is more straightforward if a judge can handle sentencing themselves. So those were all factors that the judge took into account when it came to the 6 months suspended sentence. However, they're not just on the front pages of papers, but over social media today. You know, lots of people in public life are kind of at best sort of, you know, questioning, and at worst sort of, you know, at the most extreme, outraged by the fact that Huw Edwards has received a suspended sentence for you know, for some of these offences. But it is the way the system works, and you know, currently the judges have to work within the framework that they've got.
But the point is, everyone's pointing out, well, what about all the UK rioting? Those people who made
parallels,
you know, insightful, hateful comments online, who are now actually in jail. You know, the what does it take to get to jail question mark about this. So
I think it will open up that question. If you look at some of the mitigations as well, that in fact he felt bad because he didn't go to Oxbridge. I mean, crime.
That was his mitigation.
Crime. No, that was the thing they submitted for reasons that his defence. Which, I mean, cry me a river on that one. Look, I do think people will be slightly baffled when you drill into the details of this, of you know, some of the horrific things that were read out in court today. Some of the videos that he was looking at was 7 to 9 years old. You know, 13 to 14. It is fairly. He did
subsequently say, "Don't send me underage."
Yeah, but he did also say, "Wow, amazing," and a lot more expletives.
And says he doesn't necessarily remember a lot of this because he was taking prescription and other medication at the time, and he was aggrieved that his family hadn't called him out on it. I mean, some of the testimony was very interesting.
I think the court of public opinion will have something to say on that rather than the court. No one's suggesting that the guidelines weren't followed in the court today, and the sentencing guidelines. I think the anger is. No one's suggesting that the judge has done anything wrong in here, but he's bound by these sentencing guidelines. I think the sentencing guidelines are what will baffle people, that you could be this depraved and managed to dodge jail.
It is worth saying, though, as well, that under the sentencing guidelines, I mean, the most serious of these offences could be punishable by 10 years in jail, and that would be the person that created the images of these boys. And the next, and so the next rung down, if you like, was the individual that sent, the convicted sex offender now, that sent Huw Edwards these images, and he, I think, received a year.
He got 12 months suspended as well.
And Huw Edwards is then, therefore, sort of 6 months. So it's kind of, it's in line with those...
The horrifying fact is that this actually isn't a particularly rare crime, and that's the terrifying thing, that actually if you banged up every single person, every single pedo in this country that is sharing this sort of filth, you know, privately, who gets caught, you know, the prisons are already full, frankly. There's not enough room in prison for all these people. And that, I think, will, you know, if this takes this case to wake people up to that fact, then some slither of good can come from this. But right now, it just feels like a slightly jarring end to a really quite grim tale.
Yeah, lucky Huw, the Metro there, and the Daily Express, you know, quoting the judge, or the magistrate, rather, your reputation is in tatters, which is, you know, I mean, the end sum up of, as you said, something you were hearing about since 2018. I wonder if we've got time to do Trump or not. Do I wait until the next part of our programme? I'm told to wait. Gosh, we've got that to come. And we've got Sir Keir Starmer as well, who defends taking favours from a Labour peer. Plenty to discuss in just a moment.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people.
Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised. If you want to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.
I'm Stuart Ramsey, and I'm Sky's chief correspondent.
An enormous explosion that's just come down. I think it was a monster just landed in between us.
Hundreds and hundreds of people hoping to get north, ultimately to get to the United States.
It's a border where they're not welcome, yet they keep coming.
We saw snatch squads going in, grabbing people, taking them out and putting them into trucks and taking them away.
They make about 50 kilos of fentanyl a week. It's incredibly dangerous and toxic stuff.
We're seeing an upsurge in deaths. The fighting between the gangs is getting more and more vicious.
Is this now all your territory?
Yeah.
The battlefield is outside the barricades, which is over there. This is much more like a normal town. It's really sending a clear message that Venezuela is eager for change. We've been crushed.
Free from wherever you get your news. We are in the middle of a forest, in a jungle really, and they're attempting to keep these men alive. This is real, hardcore emergency medicine. The information on this could bring down the entire network, not just in Iraq and Syria, but across the world. Sky News, the full story first.
Well, hundreds of thousands of people have been using the beast for years to traverse Mexico, but it is really dangerous. Many people have died riding it.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live. Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people, at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me once again, Harry Cole and Pippa Crerar. Welcome back to both of you. Pippa, should we talk about what happened in Florida on Trump's golf course? Somewhat indefensible, it would seem, would it not? And a second apparent assassination attempt. The suspect charged, we know. Obviously, they're trawling through their social media accounts. There's so much still to find out about this.
Yes, and it is really, I mean, it's an awful sign of the times, really, isn't it? And the sort of the political toxicity around, politics in the United States, that we've had two apparent assassination attempts on Donald Trump in as many months. You know, I think anybody, well, we've heard his political opponents, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, condemning the political violence. He himself has attacked them, accusing them of being the enemy within after the incident. You know, both sides slinging words at each other, but there are definitely questions again for some of the security teams around Trump. He had, after the incident at that rally, the chief of his close protection quit and was forced to quit. And they stepped up the protection around him. But apparently he went, to use their words, off record and went and played a round of golf that wasn't on his agenda. And it was just a special, what do they call them?
A bubble.
Yeah, it was just one of the
Secret Service
bubbles,
walking round the perimeter of the golf course that saw this rifle peering through, this weapon peering through the bushes and fired at the individual who then fled.
Yeah, I mean, I said indefensible. I think I mean
differently.
undefendable, don't I? I think maybe he needs to stop playing golf if it's undefendable for him.
Yeah, but then
the new boss of the Secret Service, or the designate one, said it was textbook today. Yeah, but nonetheless,
proved it had gone well.
Yeah, but you stop playing golf. You stop him going and speaking to people in public. He has to do everything behind a glass screen now. It shouldn't have to be that way. By this rate, by the end of the campaign, he's going to be in a Joe Biden style sort of COVID basement for the campaign. If they can't protect him, they need to massively up his security. And they admitted on television at a press conference last night that if he was a sitting president, he would have a lot more protection. They would be able to completely shut down the areas around him, but they don't. They're still working on a budget.
Well, tonight they said that Joe Biden had said he wanted the highest possible protection for both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and that was provided, and Donald Trump does feel safe, is what he has said, and you know, thanked the Secret Service agents for protecting him. Meanwhile, the Daily Star picking up on what was said by Trump in the debate, which is about the migrants eating cats and dogs. What do we learn from J.D. Vance?
Well, J.D. Vance gave a perfectly fair interview where he's basically said, you know, the media are against us, so we have to be a little bit more, you know, aggressive in how we get stories out there. At no point did he say we need to make up stories and therefore get them out there. He said we need to generate stories, as in we need to put the bellows under them as the campaign
but didn't
to
he
get
use
stuff
the word create?
He did.
He said
He said create.
This is nonsense. The Guardian US absolutely made the story up today.
Hillary Clinton retweeted. Hillary Clinton retweeted
that bastion of truth.
And Harry got very cross about it on X earlier. Your viewers can look for themselves. And after
I watched
Harry
it
tweet earlier, I looked at the clip, and the news anchor asked him specifically about this claim about Haitians eating cats and dogs in the USA, Haitian immigrants in Springfield and Idaho. And he responded saying that they needed to create stories. So I think the problem is
generate news.
Well, you know what? It could have been taken the other way as well. And given the Trump campaign's reputation for relationship with the truth, I think it was probably no surprise that people came to the conclusion that he was advocating making things up.
Take lectures from Hillary Clinton on the truth.
We have not got time to go there. 30 seconds left. Lady
Yes.
Starmer
Looking
attending
fab.
London Fashion Week in an outfit by a specific designer. Who paid for it is a question. And was it right that somebody paid for a lot of this
It was
stuff?
on loan. The outfit was on loan. We've been
Okay.
round the house on that.
So this does not
she
count
is
as part of the...
styling it out. If there's ever, you know, hit by a scandal on Sunday, walking at Fashion Week on Monday, you could say that you can see what the number 10 and Mrs. Starmer, Lady Starmer, sorry, think of this story. It is a bit weird, though. Why does a very rich couple need to have a Labour donor? Just as, you know, why do people need to take wallpaper? Why do Blairs need to take free holidays? Politicians walk into this trap all the time. What are they doing?
OK, we will
Buy
talk
your own
more.
dresses.
All sorts, indeed. Harry Cole and Pippa Creer, lovely to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Talk more in 11 on that and other stories, no doubt. Right now, here is the weather. So Tuesday, fine and sunny for most places, an area of high pressure dominating our weather. Much of this week is also looking settled. First thing then, Tuesday morning, rather chilly. Temperatures in single digits for many rural locations. Also some patches of mist around Ireland, expected to see some of the thickest fog. In the morning, fog, low cloud will burn away, temperatures steadily rising, expecting a top temperature of around 23 degrees in southeast England and eastern Scotland. Well, our press preview continues in Sky News at 11. A man appears in court in connection with a second possible assassination attempt on Donald Trump. That and our other top stories in just a moment.
The most significant day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Heavy vehicle. Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
Just want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.